There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello, BookTube. I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. And I just had a bright idea. I get a bright idea about once every 5 years, so this is really an auspicious occasion. You see, what happened was I was hoping to finish editing a long Zoom chat video. Unedited, I think it was about an hour. Hoping to get it down to closer to 40 minutes by the time I'm done. But I find editing Zoom chat videos takes an awful lot of time. It's time that I find very relaxing. I enjoy doing the video editing, but I never quite finish when I think I'm going to finish. So there's no way that's going to be ready to post tonight. And there's something about my personality that if I'm planning to post a video and then I've run out of time, the first thing my brain does is, okay, what's a quick and dirty video that I can do and put up? And then I'll feel like I still accomplished something and provided content. I mean, I know that I probably put out way more content than most of you can keep up with, and that's fine. I don't judge you. Don't judge me. I love putting out as much content as possible. So what I realized is I could do a quick and dirty book haul. 3 books. Anytime I have that urge, that itch to just get another short video out, I can do that because it would take less than an hour to probably film it, edit it, and post it, or around that amount of time. And that's how much time and energy I have left tonight. So I'm going to do these more often because it will also whittle down the humongous stack. I have almost a bookshelf full, not quite. I've got half a bookshelf full of books that I haven't gotten around to hauling. So this will be a way to chip away at it when I run out of time and don't get another video ready to post. So have I over-explained this enough for your liking, or have you already fast-forwarded? Let's begin. There's a bit of a story to this one. This is not the book I'm hauling, but I just want to put this in your face again. This is a wonderful book that I read a couple years ago, Blanket Toss Under Midnight Sun. The subtitle is Portraits of Everyday Life in 8 Indigenous Communities by Paul C. Sequasis. Paul C. Sequasis is a Willow Cree writer who lives in Saskatoon. I read this book when I lived in Tokyo. I loved it. I have a full review. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And he lives in Saskatoon. I live in Saskatoon. We started following each other quite some time ago, like when I was still in Tokyo, and I hadn't yet thought of a reason or conceptualized a project or summoned up the courage to contact him to get him on my channel. And when that, what's that movie that came out? Oh dear, what is it called? Flower Moon. That one, it's based on a nonfiction book that I bailed on because I didn't like the writing. He's apparently David Gran, is that his name? The cover's right here. And apparently it's a revolting white savior story, or at least the movie version of it is just like gag-worthy in terms of its treatment of the subject. And it is about the way that oil barons, or I'm not sure of all the details, but it was one of about 722 genocidal ways that white settler North America cheated and murdered a bunch of indigenous folk. And it was the Osage Nation. Famous book, and now a movie that apparently just, amps up all that bullshit about white saviors in a way that, don't watch it. So I got my in with Paul C. Sequasis as the movie was coming out. He put a tweet and said, if you want to read about the same issue, about the same atrocity from an indigenous writer, read this novel. And the name of the novel is Mean Spirit by Linda Hogan. So I wrote him on Twitter, DM'd him on Twitter. You will never hear Sean the Book Maniac call it X. And said, hi, I'm Sean the Book Maniac, blah, blah, blah. I loved your book. We follow each other on Twitter. I don't know if you know I have a YouTube channel, a BookTube channel. I'd love to have you do a bite-sized book chat about Mean Spirit by Linda Hogan, by which point I'd already ordered it. Here it is. And he said that would be great. And then he was also going to read the book, the Flower Moon book, Killers of the Flower Moon. And so then I thought, this was probably going to be a longer chat than a bite-sized book chat. So I said, I've already ordered the book. Why don't we both read it and have a longer chat about it in the new year? So that is the background to why I have this book. Although, like I say, I ordered it before I knew that any of this was going to take place. So stay tuned, hopefully early next year, for a chat with Paul C. Sequasis about this book and the ways in which It is a much better, more useful, more realistic treatment of this terrible thing that happened in was it the 1920s, I believe, than the stupid movie. So that's a long preamble for this particular book, and it was published in 1990. Linda Hogan is a Chickasaw poet, novelist, and essayist. Here is the opening couple paragraphs. The heading is Oklahoma, 1922. That summer, a water diviner named Michael Horse forecast a 2-week dry spell. Until then, Horse's predictions were known to be reliable, and since it was a scorching hot summer, a good number of Indians moved their beds outdoors in hopes a chance breeze would pass over and provide relief from the hot nights. They set them up far from the houses that held the sun's heat long after dark. Cots were unfolded in kitchen gardens. White iron beds sat in horse pastures. 4 posters rested in cornfields that were lying fallow. What a silent bedchamber the world was just before morning, when even the locusts were still. In that darkness, the white beds were ghostly. They rose up from the black rolling hills and farmlands. Here a lonely bed sat next to a barbed wire fence, and there, beneath the protection of an oak tree, a man's lantern burned beside his sleeping form. Near the marshland, tents of gauzy mosquito netting sloped down over the bony shoulders and hips of dreamers. A hand hung over the edge of a bed, fingers reaching downward toward bluegrass that grew upward in fields. Given half a chance, the vines and leaves would have crept up the beds and overgrown the sleeping bodies of people. Well, that is a luscious opening. I can't wait to get into this rather chunky novel, and I don't know why those grease stains are on it. The book came that way. I'm sure I can Google how to get that off. It is almost 400 pages. All right, this is a really enigmatic novel. It is a novel with photographs. I Could Read the Sky by Timothy O'Grady. The photographs are by Steve Pyke. Timothy O'Grady is Irish, but I think it's complicated. At the time this was published, he lived in Poland. And Steve Pyke is maybe American. The text is by Thomas O'Grady, and it is a novel about an old man alone in London, remembering his childhood in the west of Ireland, remembering his migrant life. So it's about migrancy, emigration. I don't know too much about it. I heard enough of it to buy it. It's not a new book. This is a new edition in 2023. It was originally published, I think, in 1997. John Berger has written a preface in which he says, "I dare not go deeply into this book, for if I did, I would stay with it forever and I wouldn't return. And then I wouldn't be on this page as I am now, on this page before the book begins." I'll read you the first 2 paragraphs of chapter 1, and there is the first photo. There is the second photo. Can you see that? This room is dark as it ever gets, the hour before dawn in winter. I have sounds and pictures, but they flit and crash before I can get them. The bedclothes are damp. The ache in my neck is bad. I hold on to myself for anchorage. Something stirs then, a little wind. It's very gentle, a lark's breath, but the thickened air drifts across to clear, and I see it. The house set just nicely into the side of the green hill. The fuchsia bending around the window is red, and the thatch so bright you'd think there was a fire in it. I am up on my brother Joe's back, painting the north door with my hands. We have the paint, but we haven't the brush. The green paint runs down through the little hairs on my arms, under the sleeve of my gansy, and onto my chest. But I don't feel it. I am 4, and Joe is 7. My hands are moving in big wild loops over the door. There are drips of green on Joe's shirt and the back of his neck. I look into the whorl of brown hair at the back of my head, at my black gansy, my trousers, my blackened feet. The way my face is, you'd think there was nothing in the world, only the door. I want to climb in behind that face, but I can't. I strain to hear some notes of a song from the kitchen. I push at the door. I grip myself tighter. That is gorgeous. I am so intrigued by this. Has anybody read it? And finally, this is a nonfiction book I bought because it was referenced in one of the articles that I featured in an episode of my new series, Zooming In. This was a chat with Nyambura about the extremely long paragraph. The article itself was kind of meh. We had a good chat about it. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes. But one of the most interesting things in the article was a reference to this book. I promptly ordered Reader's Block, A History of Reading Differences by Matthew Rubery. And this was published in just last year. Matthew Rubery is a professor of modern literature. I did a Kindle preview to make sure it wasn't overly horrifically academic or, that kind of jargony crap. And it wasn't. It's described in the synopsis as an alternative history of reading, which tells the stories of atypical readers. And I think he does some theorizing and some generalizing about, is there any right or wrong way to read? Which has captured my imagination. So I'm going to read you the opening paragraph from the introduction. And the title of the introduction is The Unideal Reader. This book tells the stories of atypical readers and the impact had on their lives by a spectrum of neurological conditions affecting their ability to make sense of the printed word. The first history of neurodivergent reading, it relies on personal testimonies that have been left out of conventional histories of reading, to express how cognitive differences shape people's experience both on and off the page. A key premise of the book is that there is no single activity known as reading. Instead, there are multiple ways of reading, and for that matter, not reading, despite the ease with which people use the term in conversation and act as if everyone does it in essentially the same fashion. Take a moment to consider what the term reading means to you. Whatever your conception of reading may be, and no matter how well you think you understand it, the examples presented here will push you to rethink the term's scope. My aim is to defamiliarize reading, to make you sit up like Dickens' Joe Gargery and say, "How interesting reading is." Well, that shows you that the prose is not jargony academies, and I am just intrigued as all get out to get to this book. I wish that I'd had room in my busy schedule to get to it for Nonfiction November this month, but I hope to get to it soon. So that's my little wee book haul. Thanks for watching.